G'day. Charles' first home win, plus 2 crashes, one on the track and one on the water. I was there to witness it all, and I'll share it with you in just a moment. Charles Leclerc is the first Monegasque to win the Monaco Grand Prix since 1931, when Louis Chiron, driving a Bugatti, won that race. In fact, Bugatti has a Chiron in their current lineup, but I'll get back to that in a moment. First off, I want to start with the first of 2 crashes. This was the one after the first turn. I was positioned about 400 metres from turn 1. The cars are coming up the hill at speed towards me. I take a number of shots and then I pull back because I can see Sergio Perez getting awfully close to me. I still took a couple of pictures, but obviously my head had moved away from the viewfinder. They weren't in focus. And then after that pass, you have to turn away because there's so much debris in the air that you don't want to get showered with it. So I've turned away, I've looked at my camera and I've selected a picture to post to my page. And then I look up and see the yellow flag and a marshal runs past me. Oh, better get a move on. So I've only got 2 cameras, they're strapped to me. So I start running with this marshal and it's clear something has gone on, something big. And then about 40 seconds after I took off, I see this scene and it's very clear that someone is on the ground and not well. So at that point I take this photo because we're trained to always take the photo. You worry about what you do with it afterwards, but you have to document what you see. I then walk past and I see an Italian photographer lying on his back and he's holding his head, but there's no blood and he appears to be moving and even perhaps chatting. But there were a number of marshals and photographers assisting. After seeing he's okay, I continue up the hill and then I find the first photo window to stick my head out of, and my gosh, the debris on the track was something like I've never seen, and I can very clearly see the damage to the Armco fence. At this stage, I've still got no idea who's involved, but in my mind, I'm very clear that a car has hit the fence. So at 3:07, I see Kevin Magnussen's car being hoisted above the fence. Then I swing around and see the medical car, which has stopped, and Sergio Perez is looking into the back seat. I also take photos of the car, which is severely damaged. These marshals are working their backsides off, trying to work out how they were going to hoist that out. Now at that point, I'm thinking Sergio's got in to the medical car, but he hasn't, because I see him with one of the marshals walking back down towards us. I'm thinking, why? Was it because Kevin Magnussen was in the back seat? Or indeed was that Nico Hülkenberg? I couldn't exactly tell at the time because all this is going on so darn quickly. The marshals have worked incredibly quickly sweeping the track, and all up along the side of the track we could come across all of this car paraphernalia. And then the crews rolled up. This was at 3:16. We get all of these crew members rolling up to fix the Armco fence. And they worked at such speed, it blew me away. There was lots of banging and rattle guns unscrewing nuts and bolts. And obviously they take out all the panels that are damaged, plus a couple either side, just to make sure that fence is not compromised. But I can tell you that by, what are we here, 3:25, it was all fixed. Then I went back to see what was happening with the photographer, and he'd gone. Apparently, according to one of his colleagues, he had walked back down with crew to the medical centre. I understood from speaking to that gentleman that he had an injury to his knee, which they weren't sure was caused by the fence or debris. Now, looking at some vision, I don't think any of those photographers were still close to the fence at the time of impact. I think it may well have been debris. And don't worry, I'm acutely aware that that could have been me, that could have been any of us, and I did note that Sergio Perez, after the race, did do a video where he apologised to a number of people, including the photographers. Although whether or not it was his fault, the jury's out on that. But certainly when those cars came past me, I thought, wow, that is very close, because rarely you see them on that side of the track at the point that I was shooting. But from above in this shot, which my son took from the top of the Amano building, you could see that there was a lot of sparking going on, and then this is the impact point. Then there was a healthy delay while everything was reorganised, and at that point it's quite funny what goes on, because as photographers often we'll have already posted our pictures to wherever we have to post to. Then it's a matter of just sitting around waiting. And that's the time when we normally go through social media, and that's when I learn a lot about what had happened, because as I often say in my videos, I can only tell you what I see, and often I'll go and make a mistake. And one case in point was this incident with George Russell and Valtteri Bottas, going back to Imola a couple of years ago, 2021, where the two came together, and I actually thought George was going to see if Valtteri was okay. Turns out you all knew, if you were watching the telecast, that he was giving Valtteri a piece of his mind. Then, of course, there was a restart, and I actually came up to the spot at about where that crash happened, but I was acutely aware that I was not going to be standing next to the fence when those cars got anywhere near me. The rest of the race, so-so, and then we had Charles Leclerc's win, which I'll get to in a second because I now want to go to the second crash. Now, if you happen to see the boat crash video from yesterday in Monaco, this is the spot that had happened. A boat, out of control seemingly, has come up this gap here and ended up on this part of the jetty.
All our guests were sitting behind me here, and I was kind of looking at it, and I just saw this speedboat coming full speed, coming around the corner, and it was happening so fast, but at the same time in slow motion. I was kind of like, what's going on here? And the next thing, he's bouncing off everything, the fenders are flying everywhere, and he crashed into the boat on his starboard side, hit this little boat on its port quarter, hit the dock and slid across, and then went into the back of this boat. The guy that was on gangway watch on the boat next door to us, he was actually staring straight down at it, and it was coming straight for him, so he had to jump out the way real quickly. The boat got on top of the dock, and the outboards were still the throttles were still in full throttle motion, so the outboard was still spinning. Once that guy jumped over, he ran over, pulled a kill cord, and killed the engine. So yeah, that's basically it.
But get this, that was a water taxi. They had no passengers on it. It just had a captain, and he's accidentally hit the throttle. He's gone off the back of the boat, so there's no one on the boat, and the thing's just taken off and done a dramatic left-hander. And before it's hit the dock, it swiped a Mercedes tender boat. So the boat's come in here, it's cleaned up this part of the dock, and you can see that some of the wood is damaged, but this power unit was wrecked, and they had to fix that overnight. So the boat's ended up facing this direction, this gentleman's boat here, and did he get any damage?
Nothing.
It is quite a sensational story, and it's almost unbelievable. All this took place in the middle of an on-track session. So the people that weren't watching it thought when they heard this noise there'd been a crash on track, and of course there wasn't. But this is the damage to the Black Swan. Minimal, but certainly an inconvenience. And there was another boat parked in this spot here that is now gone. This could have ended up very poorly, but the fact that nobody was hurt, it just beggars belief. Now, Charles Leclerc's emotional home race win. He'd had chances in previous years, but this was his crowning glory, winning in front of his countrymen and, of course, dedicating the win to his father. This was a big win for Charles and for Ferrari, but I think the bigger winner was probably Formula One. This year we've had 4 different race winners from 3 teams. And there's no doubt this will bring a lot of people who have left the sport because of Max's dominance back to the fold. And Max had to settle for 6th. I think there was only a couple of overtakes in the whole race. And my son tells me that the first 10 started in exactly the same order that they finished. After the race, I was in Parc Fermé, and Charles was clearly thrilled with the result. Jumped into the arms of his team, did his press interviews, and then went and had a chat with both Carlos and Oscar. And then he came over to where I was above the fence, where a number of his crew were, giving them a big hug, including his chief mechanic, the very popular Alessandro Fusaro. I was a little disappointed that Oscar Piastri didn't win. I thought we might have had a very good chance of hearing the Australian national anthem at the end of the race. I had quite a large wager on him, but the bookmakers have kept all of that. But certainly Monaco was abuzz following that win. And I'd like to tell you, I stayed around for all the post-race celebrations where he jumped into the drink. But no, I had to take off to Barcelona, and a video about my trip coming up shortly. You'll love it. Now, this race, I think, probably has the most celebrities. Well, maybe Vegas had more. But certainly we were blessed with celebrities here. If you like the likes of Peggy Gou, I love her music. Mbappe, if you like football. Becky G. Diplo was there. Now, he actually played for us on a boat party the other night. About 60 people, which would be one of his smallest audiences. He was actually here to do another show and came for a 20-minute set for us. Michael Douglas pops up at a lot of races. Emrata, popular with many, as is Joe Jonas. And I'd heard that Matt Damon was coming, but I didn't see him the whole day until the end of the race, and I'm walking back down pit lane, and I spot him. He was not incognito, but he was hard to spot. And I managed to get a couple of great shots, including this one where he smiled for me. Heidi Klum was there. I shot her in Las Vegas, and those pictures have appeared in magazines all around the world. And you might know this man, Liam Cunningham, who comes to a lot of races. He was in Game of Thrones, and I had a chat with him. He's got a brand new Leica camera, and he was struggling to work it, which I probably would have the same drama with too. But what was interesting was he said he follows all my videos. And I thought, whoa, that is impressive. So thank you, Liam. In fact, he might even be watching this one. Now, I've mentioned this before, that a number of celebrities are actually paid by teams to come along to the races. And that might seem amazing because a lot of you don't like the fact that they get tickets for nothing. But how do you feel if you know they're getting paid? So typically they will get, perhaps not cash, but it might be, yes, we'll fly you here, maybe private. We will put you up in a glorious hotel and pay for all your meals for your 2 or 3 day visit. Or it could be a cash payment, I don't know, 20,000 euros, 50,000, 100,000, depending on the star. And obviously the more impact and the more influence you have over people, the greater your pulling power is. Were any of these people at the weekend's race paid? I've no idea. I can tell you that one high-profile person was actually given tickets by a team, I won't say which one, and they didn't even go to their hospitality suite or their garage, which I'm pretty sure would have disappointed whoever it was at that team who stumped up for the ticket. Now, if you like my Drivers Drove series of videos, you'll be disappointed I won't be doing one this race because it's pretty simple. Most of them come in on scooters, bicycles, or by boat. And this is peak hour at the moment. One boat I can tell you about is this one. This is a Rhapsody tender worth around 200,000 US dollars. Pretty flash looking bit of kit, and a number of those have been used getting drivers to and from the track. And what have I been driving to the track? Well, I've been riding 2 wheels, a motorbike, which is a system whereby you rent them through an app. It's €8 for the week, and you can take them for as many 30-minute trips as you want included in that €8. And the trip down from our apartment in Beausoleil is fantastic because it's all downhill. And while they're electric, on the way up the hill, you still need to pedal. Now, I'll spend a fair bit of my day out here waiting for drivers to arrive, as will TV. This is F1 TV, and on race day, the drivers tend to arrive between 6 hours and 3 hours prior to race start. One thing I can tell you is because they have such low crime rates, and there's so many CCTV cameras everywhere, that people are very comfortable wearing very high-end watches, and I have seen some absolute rippers this race. Was the Monaco GP a success? Yes. It did provide us with a couple of great moments, a lot of dullness with a procession around the beautiful city streets, but in terms of a setting for a race, I don't think there is anything better. It is visually spectacular, and if you are lucky enough to be on one of those boats, lucky you. Unless, of course, you were the one that was cleaned up by the runaway water taxi. Now, with Oscar Piastri's marvellous performance and his podium finish in the Monaco GP, many of you will be wanting to grab a copy of this print. You can get it in A3, A2 and A1, depending on how big your wall is. It comes as a print or on canvas. You can go to kimelman.com, click on the shop, and then go to wall art. With that said, I'm now going to discover Barcelona, and of course I'll be sharing that video with you coming up shortly. Thanks for watching.
And stay passionate.